welcome yet again to another video of Scrivosphere, and today we are in fact reviewing that current Supernatural episode that came out on Thursday in Eric the Earth, episode 19 of 20 episodes this season. Obviously it's the final season, so it's interesting to see where it goes next. I'm a little bit worried, I ain't gonna lie. I'll get onto the episode in a minute, but I'm a little bit worried about where it's going to go. Not necessarily in a bad way, but not necessarily in a good way either. But it's a brilliant episode. It really is. You know, the beats to it. You know, it feels so somber at the start with obviously Dean catches up with Sam and Jack to find out that Castiel died in the last episode. And then of course we have the whole thing with Jack starts to come about as well. What the hell's going on? It seems like you know, my first thought was is the new death, and that's why the flowers are all dying. But obviously later on in the episode you do find out what is going on there. But anyway, you know, there's all these somber moments at the start. You can clearly tell that part of it was made in the social distancing thing and that, and it shows. Does it lessen the episode slightly? Because there's a lot of establishing shots, and I just don't think it is necessary. But obviously, for what they had and what they had finished, that this is how they wanted to do it. We also had, you know, this whole moment where Sam and Dean decide to surrender to Chuck, which was pretty good. It was pretty impressive actually to see these boys really knuckle down and just say, you know what, screw us, save the rest of everybody. You know, bring everybody back to the snap, bring everybody back, and put things right. Of course, God has his own idea and says, you know, actually, I'm enjoying this story. Let's see how you get on. Doesn't take the surrender. But you know, it's a strong scene. Watching these characters decide, you know, we got to do what's right. Let's just leave us out of it, and that kind of thing. It's just get rid of us and bring back everybody else. That is what is the forefront of Sam and Dean's mind at that moment. So they go back to the bunker, and you know, again, things are somber. Dean's drunk on the floor. Sam can't sleep. Jack is really struggling to sleep, but for a different reason to Sam and Dean. Because Jack can feel something, senses something out there. So, you know, later on in the episode, we find out that Jack could sense somebody and something, and that somebody and something was Michael. You know, he talks about the rapture, about everyone disappeared, and he decided to hide out in Saint Michael's, you know, cathedral or church, which seems to work. Obviously, we get down to what the truth is later on, but for this moment in particular, that's what happens. Then you get a really weird part. You know, you get all these bits with like Michael coming back. He talks about Adam, that Adam's also gone. Dean mentions the fact that that kid cannot get a break. But in all fairness, Sam and Dean, you're the reason why you can't get a break. So, you know, don't start with this whole that poor kid, screw you God thing, because you left him down there in hell for 10 years. No, longer than that, wasn't it? Actually. What was it, 13 years? 14 years they left him down there? Finally brought him back in this season after season 5's left, and you know what I mean? So, you know, you can't exactly get on that high horse, which I don't think they do anyway. Anyway, you know, moving on to the episode. And it's like Mike and you know, they get to the whole thing with the book and Michael in the bunker, and this is where we find out Michael actually can't open the book as much as he tries. And Sam and Dean get into this again somber sort of feeling of, well, what do we do next? You know, I mean, we've got a powerhouse now. with Michael. Um, but we could really do with that book to have an edge. And of course, then Dean gets a phone call. And it's Cass. We hear Cass's voice, and we're thinking, oh my god, is Cass really back? And they go up to the door, open the door, and who do they find there? Freaking Lucifer. Lucifer's back. What the hell are you doing here, Lucifer? Um, that was a shocker. Like, I knew that Jack Abel was coming back, but I didn't know Mark Pellegrino was coming back as Lucifer. So it's shocking to me. Like, I was expecting Michael to come back eventually because I knew he'd come back recently, but Lucifer, of all people, is saying that he's been kicked out of the MT, and that he wants to read the book and finish God off once and for all. But of course, you find out later on. I mean, it's really intriguing how he does things, like, and how it's revealed everything. But obviously, we have this episode where, obviously, in the previous episode, Death is now dead, and obviously the rules of Death is that the next Reaper to die becomes Death. Lucifer brings this new Reaper, Betty, I believe it is, and he kills her in front of the Winchesters, and the Winchesters are like, "What the hell?" And it's quite, it's typical Sam and Dean stuff. But then of course she wakes up, and she's the new Death. She reads the book in private. She starts to read the book, and then all of a sudden, Lucifer kills her. I think he snaps, turns her into ash, and that is it for Betty the Reaper. And then what's interesting next is that the book flies over to Lucifer. Obviously, he swings it over, and it's still open. And he's like, "Daddy wanted the book." Yeah, God was the one that got rid of Lucifer at the MT and brought him back. He knew that he could maybe get on the brothers' side a little bit because of all the things that have happened in the past between the two of them. So that was really good. I really like the reveal of that. And then we get the whole fight between Michael and Lucifer. While short, it was very sweet, and it's nice to see the Gold Blade come back and kill Lucifer yet again. Which hopefully is the last time we'll ever see Lucifer. But there are people out there that think, why bring him back? There's the odd YouTuber that have said, the story's stale now, bringing Lucifer back. But I think that with the way they got rid of him, and the storyline where they got rid of him wasn't all that great. I mean, if they'd left it at season 5, I'd be happy with that. They brought him back. It was good to see him back in what was season 12 or 13. And that was good. But then they got rid of him in the way they got rid of him. I wasn't too keen on that. So to bring him back again and to kill him again, this is a better way. At least at least he's got a bigger cause into why he's dying this time, and he's not just being an ass. And then of course we get to the moment where it's like Sam is able to read the book. The book is open. The book falls when Lucifer dies, and then of course the end game is sort of coming into effect at this point. Sam picks up the book. He's reading it, but we don't see his point of view of the book yet. There's this whole story that they come up with about the Enochian symbols, and that Sam is trying to translate them. But he's doing this knowing that God will listen. So then they take the spell that they figure out, and they go along with it. And it's like, yeah, we can get a being who can take God down once and for all. Unbeknown to the Winchesters, should I say, Michael has betrayed them, and it was always like that. But God is not happy the fact that Michael did go against him earlier on in the season. I suspect now we do know that Lilith really was killed by Michael in that episode, which is a shame because bringing back a character like Lilith and then just having her in 2 episodes, which I believe it was 2 episodes, is like for a character that was so impactful on the show. For her to go like that and not be by the hands of Sam and Dean is quite interesting. Sam and Dean is quite interesting. So, the beams of light go up, blue light, and I'm just thinking at this moment, I'm thinking, there is no way there is a being out there that can kill God, unless it's an alternate version of God. And when God appears, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, that's not our God, is it? Is that some alternate universe Chuck that's got the power of God, or something? Something weird? But it actually is God. See you later, boys. See you later, Jack. You know, Michael and God have a little confrontation for a little bit, and it's a small little fight, but God is not happy about the previous thing with God, Michael, and gone. Actually, it's a bit more like, his eyes are blaring, his face is cracking, and that is the end of Michael. That officially you kill Michael. Then God is like, you know what? I'm done with this story now, and he's about to snap. He's about to snap the Winchesters away, and then he decides, you know what? Because you can see Sam and Dean getting up again to fight, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to get my hands dirty for once, and he's there punching and kicking, and he absolutely beats the shit out of Sam and Dean, and it's like, there's this sort of like repeat thing with what it looks like repeat thing sort of thing, where it's like over and over again, and eventually he breaks Sam's arm. He stamps on he stamps on Dean's arm and breaks Sam's arm with his hands. And constantly saying things like, that's enough, guys, stay down, that kind of thing. They get up, and it's a really emotional part where Sam picks Dean up, and they're both smiling, and it's like, yes, they've done it, they've done something. But in that moment where Sam picks Dean up, it really it got to me in here, because it's like, these brothers will stand next to each other for life, no matter what. Nothing can stop them, and that's what I love about this. And then of course they're smiling, and Chuck's like, "What you got to smile about? What are you smiling for, you idiots?" sort of thing. And it's like, he turns around and there's Jack, and he is like, well, he don't look as weak as he did earlier, because Jack wasn't ready to take on Lucifer earlier. That's something I missed out before. Lucifer asked Jack to join him, and he said no. There was no way that Jack was ever going to join Lucifer and God. No way. Anyway, so yeah, God is there, just standing there looking at Jack. He's thinking, "What the hell are you going to do?" Chuck's like, "Screw it," and he clicks his finger. And in this moment, he clicks his finger and nothing happens. And he's like, and nothing happens. And then Jack starts to, like, his yellow eyes glow. He grabs Chuck's face, and it's just like, and you're thinking, oh my god, Jack's gonna kill God in this moment, and then he just lets Chuck die. Like, it looks like Chuck's about to die, and Chuck falls down to the ground, and Sam and Dean are like, they're still there, standing there, and Jack's like, "You go, boys." And they're back to their usual selves. All the marks are gone, and their arms ain't broken anymore. And then Sam's just like winging it off, just like, yeah, my arm feels good. Anyway, yeah, and so Jack's obviously the new god at this point. Funny thing is, you're always thinking throughout the episode, is he the new Death? For him to actually come up as the new god, it's actually quite impressive to turn that around. But of course, it's revealed that there was never anything in the book, but there was a plan all along. Even back when they, like Jack exploded, she said there would be some ramifications to it. But the ramifications of it is that Jack has been able to suck in energy from anywhere, from plant life is where we've seen it primarily. In Despair, the last episode, there's a moment when he's painting the walls with all the Enochian symbols and stuff like that, and he sees a plant, and they're like, we should probably get, like, Donna was like, I don't know a lot about this, but we should probably get rid of that. And he goes to touch it, and it just dies. Well, in this episode, we find out that actually he's been gaining energy from any energy source that it comes along. And of course, when Michael came into it, and when Lucifer came into it, and they were fighting, and he killed Lucifer, all that energy went into Jack, which made him powerful enough to take God out. And obviously, in this moment where Jack's touching Chuck's face, God's face, it's a case of, he's not killing him, he's taking his power, and therefore becoming the new God. So, obviously, after this, it's a case of what do we do with Chuck now? And it's like, Chuck is like, I'm going to die by a Sam Winchester and a Dean Winchester. It's not like he's saying to get killed by the Winchesters. He would just say that, or do we get killed by you, Sam, and you, Dean? He says a Sam Winchester and a Dean Winchester. But, and this is the part that I like the most, doesn't kill him. They let him live. They let him live with his problems. I'm hoping this doesn't come back to bite them in the neck in the last episode of the series. Because, that sort of Warren thing where it's like, it's sort of dealt with, but then he comes back with a gun and shoots Buffy and Tara. Killing Tara, almost killing Buffy. So, but I don't think that'll happen. The writers have said that this was the season finale. So this was the season 15 finale, but the next episode is the series finale. So it's every episode finale, which means that the next episode is the definitive end of Supernatural. And I'm not worried about it too much. But anyway, going back to this episode, then Jack brings everybody back, and we don't see any of the characters that we've lost. So, while it is a little bit unsure, I can't see them not bringing back Donna, at least. If it's a struggle to bring back the Bobby and the Charlie, then fair enough. But at least bring back Donna and Jodie, of course, and Eileen. Eileen deserves to come back as well. So and obviously Jack is like, I'm not going to be this hands-on. Everyone's going to know me. Yes, Dean is sort of like, we're going to set you up with the perfect bedroom and all this stuff, and it's like, actually, he's not going back, Dean. So that was that, and Jack left, and it was quite tearful. I was sitting there, not quite like Cass, in the sort of weaving thing, but in this instance, it was like one little tear coming down my eye. That's how it was with Jack. Not that I dislike the character. I haven't been his biggest fan. I mean, he killed Mary Winchester. Again, I'm not exactly necessarily a biggest Mary Winchester fan, but he killed Mary, and in the way he did it was just a little, But of course, in this episode, Jack, it's more of a Jack's end than a Supernatural Sam and Dean end. Which I'd be perfectly happy if the series ended like this, and that was it. I'd be happy because then you get to think about your own way, how it ends, what happens next. You're allowed to write it yourself, and I'm a little bit of a writer myself, so that would be quite enjoyable. But this episode really was brilliant. Of course, we're not done. So, it goes back to Sam and Dean in the bunker. They're like drinking on the table, and it's like, Dean turns to Sam and says, we can write our own lives now. Our lives are ours. You can see a tear in Sam's eye, and it's really emotional. And then, Sam and Dean walk towards the camera, and then it starts zooming in on the, the scratches that they did into the table with the knives. And you've got obviously SWDW for Sam and Dean. You also, Mary did one, Jack did one, and Castiel did one. It's a shame that they didn't get John Winchester's. They could have put in John Winchester's for when he came in back for that little episode. Although, it's also a question of, like, do because obviously from that point of view in that timeline, he never did that. He never went into the future. So therefore, if he scratched anything into the table, would it have stuck? But also, then that actually begs the question of, do Sam and Dean actually remember seeing him? And does Mary actually remember it all? You know what I mean? So there's some little bits and bobs to question there, but I wish it was there anyway. A JW would just mean a lot. And then of course we had what definitely feels like could have been the very last thing we see, and it flashes for everything that ever happened, and we get all these flashes, and there's a song playing, and I'm sorry I don't know the song right now, but it's a top notch song. I enjoy it. I enjoy listening to it when they were going through everything. We're showing everything from every season, every villain, every top notch character that we've had prior to this season and prior to this episode, and it is really hard to think that this show is ending soon. But if the show ended there, I'd be completely happy. If next week, the one thing that would annoy me is if in the next episode, on Thursday night's episode, if we got a sort of interview, 2-hour interview thing about the show and everything, that would annoy me personally, because it's been panned out to be the last episode. So it's an actual episode with Sam and Dean, not Jensen and Jared. Now, I wouldn't be completely pissed off because I like seeing this stuff. I want to see how they made the show and everything, and how the show came up, how they changed it along the way, who came up with the idea of, making, bloody Sam's soul disappear in season 6. All these, where the Leviathan idea came from as well, and what people thought about that and stuff like that. I don't mind that stuff, but when it's set into the series, if you buy the DVD of season 15 when it comes out, and episode 20 is just interviews and stuff, it might as well just be a special feature, and there's only 19 episodes in the series, so I can't see there not being an episode. But on that note, I wouldn't mind if the show ended like this, with the ending of seeing everything and Sam and Dean driving off on the road. Although I don't think I think it's too happy of an ending for Sam and Dean, and that's why I think it won't happen. But it was an absolutely brilliant episode. Again, there was tears in my eyes. Not as much as Castiel. I love Castiel. I do. Not in that way. I don't love him in the way that people are saying that he loves Dee. But I'm not touching on that. It's ridiculous. Does it matter? So yeah, that's my episode for today. Of course, this episode was absolutely brilliant. Supernatural episode. It was just phenomenal. And while it does worry me slightly of what they do next in the next episode, and what direction it goes in, I'm looking forward to it. I cannot wait. So thanks for watching this video. As I say, this episode was absolutely brilliant. Go and check out the episode before you watch it, as it's spoiler mill from get-go, But thanks for watching. I've been Squivo. This has been Squivosphere. I'll give you the usual at the end. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.